What is the sole producer of active force in the body? Muscles. What type of muscle activation happens when the distance between the distal and proximal attachment decreases, and the internal torque is greater than the external torque? It can be referred to as the shortening or contracting of a muscle. Concentric. What type of muscle activation happens when the muscle is lengthened in a controlled manner, and the external torque is greater than the internal torque? Eccentric. What type of muscle activation happens when the muscle remains at a constant length? Isometric. The point of attachment that is closest to the midline or core of the body in the anatomic position is called the origin or proximal attachment. The point of attachment that is farthest to the midline or core of the body in the anatomic position is called the insertion or distal attachment. A muscle or muscle group most directly related to performing a specific movement is an agonist. A muscle or muscle group that can oppose the agonist is called an antagonist. What occurs when agonist and antagonist muscles are simultaneously activated in an isometric fashion? Co-contraction. A muscle that fixes or holds a body segment stationary so that another muscle can perform more effectively is a stabilizer. Muscles that work together to perform a particular action are synergists. The shortening and lengthening of a muscle is referred to as an excursion. What surrounds the belly of the muscle and helps to hold muscle shape? Epimysium. The bundle of muscle fibers that is surrounded and supported by the perimysium is the fasciculus. Endomysium. This composes muscle fiber, contains contractile proteins packaged within each sarcomere. Myofibril. The basic contractile unit of muscle fiber is called the sarcomere. The active structures responsible for muscular contraction are composed of actin and myosin protein filaments. What factors determine the functional potential of a muscle? The answer is all the above. Cross-sectional area, shape, and line of pull all determine the functional potential of a muscle. This muscle shape is when fibers run parallel to one another and is built to provide large ranges of motion. Fusiform. This muscle shape is when expansive proximal attachments converge to a small distal attachment and provides a stabilized base for generating force. Triangular. This muscle shape is expansive proximal and distal attachments and is suited to stabilize a joint or provide large forces, depending on cross-sectional area. Rhomboidal. This muscle shape has a large force potential and limited excursion. The muscle fibers approach a central tendon at an oblique angle and resemble the shape of a feather. Pennate muscles. What can be described as the degree to which muscle is either stretched or shortened at the time of its activation? Length-tension relationship. When a muscle's active force is generally greatest at its mid-length and least at both extremes, it is referred to as active length-tension relationship. When a muscle's active force generates greater internal elastic force when stretched, it is referred to as passive length-tension relationship. True or false? A multi-articular muscle can be elongated to a much greater extent than a monoarticular muscle. True. Which contraction produces less force as the speed of contraction increases? Concentric. Which contraction creates greater force than any speed of concentric contraction? Isometric. Which contraction is when force production increases slightly as the speed of the elongation increases? Eccentric. What may result in some degree of adaptive shortening? The answer is all the above. Disease, immobility, and poor posture may result in some degree of adaptive shortening. What is the condition that is when a muscle is so tight that it severely restricts joint movement? Contracture. Which are true guidelines in stretching? Perform stretches frequently. Which are true guidelines in stretching? The answer is all the above. You should hold stretch for 20 to 30 seconds. Encourage positions throughout the day that maintain some stretch on a muscle when feasible, and strengthen the muscles that are antagonistic to the tightened muscle. The overload principle is when the muscles must receive a sufficient level of resistance to stimulate hypertrophy. Training specificity is when the muscles adapt to the way in which it is challenged. True or false? A fundamental understanding of the nature of muscle can be extremely helpful in determining and advancing a particular course of treatment. True.